Outer Orange.
It's been a while. Previous see it. Welcome back to a what to buy. It's been a while since I've been in front of the camera because I've had COVID. It's been really hard to talk the last week or so, but I finally got my voice back. Finally have a normal throat. So we're going to go over the Lyrical Monasterio set 4 what to buy. I'm going to say that this one's going to be a little unique for multiple reasons. One, we have the 50 card rule officially active. So it's going to be a little bit harder to kind of differentiate exactly how to do ratios here. So just bear with me on that. I'll do my best. And then we got a lot of generics here that I kind of want to go over, and also a lot of decks got upgrades, so we're kind of break it down to a couple categories. We're gonna start with the generic and like the cards that aren't like restricted to a deck name, and then we'll probably go into like the decks. And I do have a couple deck logs that I personally have been using, that I personally made or I've been using, and I'm gonna gotta throw those in as we talk about specific decks. Let's go ahead and get started. So to start off, I want to go over generic because there's actually quite a few generics in here that are actually really good, and I do want to highlight like very specific ones that are insane. This is the Labrador. This is basically a card that works with grade 4s. It also works on guard circle. She also has some effects on for drawing. She also has shield on her. There's some really cool stuff that you can use her as, and then also you can discard her for stride decking and also for riding to 3. So this is just a really good generic staple that you should probably be picking up. This card is definitely going to be useful in the future, especially if we get a stride deck set potentially for Lyrical Monasterio. If there's a shot that we might get one of these, this card will instantly go up in value. So you should definitely grab this while it's probably not going to be too expensive. So this is definitely a mandatory one. Another very obvious one is the mouse. All the other nations got one of these. Now Lyrical got one too, and Lyrical's one is actually really good. This one says on rearguard circle you can choose a card name with the same as your Vanguard from your solar drop and put it to hand. So basically you can bring back personas, you can bring back grade 4s, you can bring back basically anything that's the same name as your Vanguard. Also obviously the effect is on guard circle, you can get some shield, and this is the one where you send back your ride deck cards. Highly recommend picking this up. This is definitely gonna be a staple. It's already being used a lot, and by that I mean it gets used in all the main decks that are topping, and it'll probably continue to be used even in like the lower tier decks. Those decks will also be utilizing this card. Kyrie can bounce this card back, by the way, so you can definitely utilize on that a lot. So yeah, definitely highly recommend picking up this card. There is for premium, this is 2 cards for premium that are very essential that you should definitely be grabbing, especially if you're playing premium. So there's 2 versions of this card. There's a grade 2 and a grade 1. They're for Sienna. However, in premium for Highlander, you can use these cards. I might have vaguely talked about these cards in the past when they first got revealed, but I don't remember if I actually did it in a video or not, but I definitely talked about this amongst Lyrical players. So basically what this card says is when it's placed on rearguard circle, you can choose my opponent's front rear guards and return it to hand. This is a pseudo denial griffin for premium. You can maximize this with a G guard called Citron, and you can basically stop an attack if your opponent has any form of like a high power. If they hit the over trigger, they stack something really big on one column. If they try to loop you, do whatever, you can actually stop the loop by bouncing the card back to hand. And if they have no other way to really utilize it, it basically stops whatever attraction they're trying to do. Very important card. There's a grade 1 version that does the exact same thing. It's just not a triple rare, it's just the regular rare. I'm going to show it to you guys right now. The exact same first skill, different second skill, mainly for Sienna. Again, you can, on rearguard circle, you can choose my points for rearguards and return it to hand. So like I said, very interesting cards. You can throw these into Highlander, you can throw these into Ange. Ange just got way more tankier with this kind of build. If you go like super tanky Ange, you can utilize on these like crazy and kind of just sit there for hours and hours, your opponent just can't kill you. Keep in mind it is off of Citron, so you do need heal guardians, so just something kind of keep in mind as you're kind of going through this. Something else I want to note, Uica did get reprinted in this set. Uica is pretty important in other decks, so if you haven't grabbed your Uicas and they happen to have dropped in a really good price, you should pick these up. Keep in mind in the upcoming couple promos that we're getting, we are getting some Uica reprints again, so hopefully with all the Uicas getting reprinted, this will drop and you can finally pick up your Uicas. Very important card. While I'm here, also the ride deck card, the grade 2 Valsport or whatever its name is, definitely a very important card to be grabbing if you want to play competitively. If you don't want to play competitively, you could probably avoid this card. Just something to kind of keep in mind, as it's a little bit of an older card. It's from the Festival Collection. It's a staple in Prism, but you don't necessarily need in other decks, but I just thought I'd throw it in there while I'm here. A couple other generics I want to kind of highlight that I saw that I thought were really cool. One of the more popular generics is obviously the grade 2. This one right here is pretty popular. You can run this in a couple decks like Kyrie, but you can run it in any deck basically. If you play normal order, when it's used placed on rearguard circle other than by use card ability, if you play normal order, you can basically like a top 5 call card. So you can kind of do some kind of funny stuff with this card if you have like an order focused deck. And then also when she attacks, you can also cast draw card. She gets 10k, which is also really nice. The fact they just get to draw. So that's also, again, in Bermuda, that's or Lyrical, that's very important. So draw is very important there. And again, she's not restricted aside from the orders, so you can just kind of mess around with that. So there's this card, which I think is very interesting. This card is an on-hit card, so when she's boosted, you can counterblast. Choose one of your boosted units, and when the attack hits a Vanguard, you can discard a card, choose one of your units with the grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from your hand and call it to an open rearguard circle. So this is actually an on-hit extension. Funnily enough, you can actually run this in premium as well with Fina. Fina allows on-hits to happen regardless, so you can play this and like a couple other cards and kind of go that route. It's not very, obviously this is a pretty weak card on its own, but it is a card that you can utilize. And also she's kind of generic. I think the only thing that sucks about this is you have to commit to the counterblast, and if the hit doesn't happen, then obviously you just kind of wasted the counterblast. Lyrical's in a weird spot where it really needs more counter charge. It doesn't have it yet, but hopefully we'll get some in the future. A couple other cards I want to highlight is some of the orders that this got. Some pretty good orders have come out from this set that I really like. This one is already being used in Prism, but you can actually use it in any deck. It's just Counterblast, give all your rearguards 5k. That's pretty nice. It's basically a pseudo persona, and once you rise with 3, you can just utilize it. Another one to consider is this one. This one recycles itself. You basically choose a rearguard, and at the end of battle, you can choose to return it to hand. So you can now return to hand any card in any Lyrical deck because this one's generic. So you can utilize this with that grade 2. You can use this to put the red text on, and you can use the grade 2 to get some cards out, and then you can also bounce the grade 2 and kind of replenish that and just recycle. Another card that a lot of other nations got as well is this one right here. It says if you have 3 or more open rearguard circles, you can choose when you get 15k, and if your opponent's Vanguard was placed by a card's ability, you can get 30k instead of 15k. Every single nation got one of these. The only difference was that the way you play it would be different, but the second effect was basically the same. So just another card you can look out for. There's this one right here. If you boost a grade 3 rearguard unit, you can, and your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 rearguard, you can so blast and give it 10k. So just another generic like extra beef that you can do. Here's another one. During your turn fall, if you have different names, you can also give this unit gets plus 5k. It's mainly Patroka support, but sometimes you do have different units and just an extra 13k beater. Basically, here's another one. This can't be written, but when this was placed, if none of your rearguards were returned to hand this turn, you retire this unit. So she's a 15k. You can also utilize her. Basically, if you play a bouncing deck, you can use her. Very interesting card. You can't have her in a ride deck, obviously, but you can also just place her. And then if you've returned cards, well, hooray, now you can utilize her. She's a little weirder, a little harder to use right now. There's not as much main phase bouncing in Lyrical, but in the future, maybe there will be, and you can utilize that. So let's go ahead and talk about specific decks. I'm gonna obviously just go into the big bad boy. Here is Labrador. Keep in mind, we do have the 50 card restriction here going on. So this is what I created. I just want to let y'all know. Obviously working with 50 cards here, it's a little different, but I'm gonna give you guys the deck list anyway. This is what I did right now. In the future, this will change into that new Regulus piece probably because of the while sure knew he's gonna be a meta. That Regulus piece is just too important. Otherwise, everything's about the same. You're running the 4. Here's the mouse. I upped this because this is pretty important. I upped this card because this is the order card, and everything else is basically like what a normal Prism deck would have. I don't know Prism well enough to know if there's anything else to tech in. There probably is. For now, I kept it simple and to the point, and I just kept it like this, just nice and simple, nothing crazy. You can start here and then start like tweaking it and adding your own little love to it, and just whatever you can put Reese's in here. Reese's is a great card to utilize on this stuff. Though I have noticed the more recent list just don't run that card at all, but with the extra space, maybe now we can. If you're looking for Prism, this is the cards you kind of want to look out for. Notice that this card's in here and the mouse is in here. 2 very important cards for this deck, so it's just something to kind of look out for. And if you have extra copies of these, you can run this. You can also run the Chalice if you want. And like I said, this order is actually really good in this deck, especially because you make really good numbers, you bounce a lot, and you also attack a lot in this deck. So very good combination. Let's go over to Pacifica. Pacifica is a very generic deck, and actually there's multiple ways you can build this. I'm going to first show you guys just the regular build. So this is just whatever you want to put in the deck.com. This deck is so generic that you can basically play whatever. I'm playing the Pacifica package in here, which means the ride line has the Pacifica unit effects on it. So this lets you use Pacifica stuff. This lets you use Pacifica stuff, basically searchers. And then we also are running the Pacifica generic support in here as well, the 2 and the 1. And then we're running the running the whatever this card's name is for the extra beef up, and then also just to draw more cards. And then also the mouse is in here, and mouse is pretty important. I think Uica is very important in this deck, but the Soul Blast can be a little heavy, so just be very cautious of that. And then everything else is basically a staple. I also threw this card in just for the lulz. You can put whatever you want in. And I also threw in the Garbage Trick Girl. This girl, basically, if you call her from Pacifica's effect, you can activate the Garbage Trick, so this is pretty nice. Your opponent has to guard 2. And then also I threw her in just for the shits and giggles. Realistically speaking, you can make this deck whatever you want it to be. This deck is so open to creativity, it's not even funny, because Pacifica has literally no restrictions on her aside from the fact of this Pacifica specifically. And for the attack, you have to have a Pacifica and Soul. Luckily enough, it's actually pretty easy to get Pacifica into Soul, and constantly going between these is not that hard. You can also bring Pacificas back to hand. If you go full on with the engine the support, you're constantly cycling Pacifica, so you should never be missing. I do have another build. This is kind of more of like a janky haha funny build, and I'm going to show you guys because I just think it's funny. but I call it the Justine build. Basically, this is the multi-attack extension build. Well, sadly, Pacifica doesn't make great numbers enough for this deck to really work too well, but it's just funny. So basically what this deck does is you play the normal Pacifica engine, but then on her attack, Pacifica on her attack, you call out this card and then use her ability, just counterblast, discard 2, draw 2, and then what you discard is you discard Justine, and you call Justine out on the other side whenever you open Rigor Circle is. Keep in mind you have to have open Rigor Circles. That's where the Uica comes into play and where the Ingrid comes into play, which is right here. So basically you want to empty out your circles and then refill them up, draw a ton of cards, call a bunch of cards. And this is just a really weird high roll extension. You'll notice I'm running the Ballista engine here. The reason being is because this deck soul blasts so freaking much. So this gives you that early access to soul. It also lets you see a bit more of your deck, but you are missing out on the Pacifica engine of searching for Pacifica, so you do have to kind of draw into them. I do run a little bit of that backbone Pacifica just because this card's actually pretty important. She lets you choose 2 Pacificas from your drop and put them back into the deck and shuffle. If you choose 2, you countercharge. Putting back Pacificas into deck is actually pretty important, so that's why I kept it in there. This is a very janky, just haha hee hee list, but you can make it whatever you want to be. This is just something I was messing around with. I just thought was cool. So there's another deck I really want to talk about. That's actually Mediel. I don't have the card's not in here, but the support is actually in here, and I just wanted to quickly talk about Mediel. The only card you really need, or the main card you need to upgrade this deck, is actually this card. Everything else I think is fine. I'm still experimenting with this deck. I think there's a lot of room to experiment with this deck, but basically this card says you can revive 2 cards instead of 1, which means now on Mediel's turn you can revive OuterOrange or aka Elise, and basically have a multi-attack turn with crits on them along with your deck stacked typically. So usually you know what your stack is, and then you have these 2 coming down with extra power, extra crits on them, and then on top of that they also restand themselves, so you have a 5 attack turn with crit pressure and a stacked deck essentially, and it's really cool. I will say it's a little piece reliant, but it's a really cool concept. I thought I'd share with you guys because I actually play Mediel quite a bit. I like Mediel just needs a little bit more love. This deck is extremely counterblast and soul blast heavy, so you go through resources like crazy, and that's the deck's biggest weakness. The other weakness is it really wants to Persona Ride. This deck, because of the soul reason and just in general, Persona Riding is just really impactful. Luckily enough, we have the mouse to kind of help us kind of come back. So we do have like a little bit of that fluff to at least get 1 Persona back if we have the option to. I would highly recommend on Rigor Circle getting a Persona back. It's very important. It also has some generic stacking, stuff like that in here. Very cool deck. I think this card definitely made the deck better. It's unfortunate this is all the card, that's all the card really does. You can also it also puts itself with the soul, which the soul is very important. But the deck still needs a little bit more, but I thought I'd share it because I think this deck is really cool. One more deck I do want to talk about while I'm here is Kyrie. No idea what this is going to turn into in the future. Right now, this is what I'm working with, but chances are it's probably going to change quite a bit. So we basically threw in the new card. This is the grade 3. Since we're working with grade 4s and working with grade 3s, you get to just utilize this card a little bit more. So we threw it in. And then here's the new card that came out with this set. This is the Penelope. This card lets you restand rear guards in the same column. So now on your Persona turn and on your grade 4 turn, you have way more attacks, and it's a lot easier to maintain it. In the past, I've done a bunch of videos of me trying out different variations of Kyrie, doing different ways to extend attacks, which Kyrie can already multi-attack under Persona, and actually you can do a lot of crazy stuff under Persona, but the issue is like it required a lot of pieces. This is a little bit easier as it just requires a Soul Blast and just bouncing, which are going to be bouncing anyway. So I was kind of experimenting. I realized I threw this card in and this card actually doesn't work in here. All right, so I changed 1 card out. I'm not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna change this card again. The reason being is that this is a very counterblast heavy card, but just to kind of make the deck fit more, I changed that 1 card out. I forgot it has a normal order effect on it. You have to have the normal order so to utilize it. But anyway, so you can throw this card in, you can throw Melty in here. The biggest issue with this deck is counterblast. You can run cards like Ingrid or a couple other counterchargers like the countercharger. What's really rough on the edges. This deck's biggest weakness right now is counterblast. You'll notice almost every card has a counterblast on it. So hopefully in the future we'll have that fixed. You can experiment with this as much as you want. There's actually another Kyrie card coming out that's coming out in the future sets. Also a really good card that'll make this deck even better. I actually think Kyrie has a lot of room to be really good. Like I said, our biggest issue is counterblast, but I actually think this deck is starting to get stronger and stronger, and I think people are really underestimating the power of where this deck's going. You guys know my love for Fortia. I haven't spent too much time on Fortia. I've spent a little bit of time. Like I tested it when the cards first dropped, and then I kind of haven't touched it since. It's been 3 months. But honestly, the deck hasn't changed too much. You have 2 routes with Fortia. You can go the base route where you put the regular Fortia in the main deck and then have the new Fortia in the side deck, or you can put the new Fortia in the main deck and then put her in the side deck. Basically, you can swap these. So you can run 4 of these and 2 of this, or you can run 4 of this and 2 of this. Up to you how you want to do it. I think either way, the deck functions about the same. The biggest change that I want to highlight is actually this right here. This card is one of the older cards, but this card's just better. gives more power to stuff. But there's an older card that just says if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, you get the 10k. Well, guess what? Now you can, with Fortia, also get extra 5k power. It's pretty useful. We are working with a 50 card deck now, so I added this card in because there's actually room for her now. You can also run the promo, the Stolas promo. I hate that card. Other people love it. If you like it, please have at it, play it. I don't, it's completely up to you. There's 2 reasons I don't like that card. The first reason is that it's a little heavy on the resource, and 2, it doesn't have the friends condition on it, and I just think that makes the card way worse and just way more bricky. But it is also a way to revive. The revival isn't bad, so up to you how you want to do it. I prefer this. This is basically just the list I've had, but just with the added extra cards, and the mouse is in here because the mouse is actually really good. And yeah, this deck likes Persona, so having access to getting Persona back to hand is very important, especially since the deck itself actually discards Fortias as well. You can discard Fortias for the effect, and you can, so basically if you have extra copies, it's a little easier to work with. Keep in mind, Fortia herself is also a friends unit, so you usually don't want to utilize them too much unless you absolutely have to. So the mouse helps with getting extra copies back to hand. I'm going to show you guys some of the decks I don't know as well, mainly the Siana and the Charmout. I'm just going to literally just look it up on VG Paradox and throw you guys a list so you guys have something to look forward to. Keep in mind, a lot of these decks I'm talking about, you'll notice that the support is like, it literally says the name of the card on the support. So if it's like Siana, it'll say Siana on it. You don't really need to dig too far to know what you're looking for. So here's the Siana build, so you guys can look at this to kind of see what you like out of it. It should mainly just be Siana cards. There's a couple of those generics that I've been mentioning here and there, and then just basically any card that says Siana on it. Charmout kind of has a similar situation going on for it. Here's the Charmout version. Here's a build for you that you can test out, experiment. Notice I just run the reseason here, and basically it runs the Charmout support, and then it runs 1 powerful card. This is a powerful card from set 2, and yeah, you basically just beat your opponent down in huge numbers, and then also just whatever you need off of this. Next is the Trick or Treat. I don't know if there actually is any lists on her. There might be, but it's definitely more of like a, yeah, it's definitely more of like a fun deck, I want to say. Deck Center does not have the latest, so actually I can't show you all from there either. Well, hopefully there's some Trick or Treat. Honestly, the Trick or Treat deck is basically just running the Trick or Treat cards. I don't think it's too complicated. Just run cards that have the Fennel support in them, and then you want to throw in the Trick or Treat cards in, which is the grade 1 orders. They look something like, whatever. These are the Trick or Treat cards right here. So you can run 16 of these, so you can kind of throw both of them in and kind of experiment a little bit. If you have a deck list, feel free to comment below and leave a deck list. And also, while you're here, if you like the content so far, please like and subscribe. It really helps me, keeps the channel going, so all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I would say just look up Fennel and just kind of see what access you have. And then if you're starting to run out of options, look at the generic cards I've been talking about to kind of throw in as extra copies. Keep in mind, Fennel does work with normal orders. So actually this card right here, the grade 2 works with Fennel as well. So just something else to kind of keep in mind if you want to go down that route. Oh, there's also a Herminia. Not gonna lie, I don't know much about Herminia, so I'll leave this to the Herminia experts. But yeah, I know it runs anything. Just look up the word powerful. I start going through it. Last but not least, there's a couple cards for like Kyoka. It's Kyoka, Leafa, Pacholka. There's a couple like random cards that kind of, Leticia got one. Here's Leticia's card. Leticia's actually got some really good support, and is getting another promo that's actually really good too. So if you've been playing Leticia, I highly recommend to keep playing Leticia. Maybe throw in some of the new cards, especially the new order curse story that's coming out, and I think makes the deck actually like really insane. So just keep on the lookout for Leticia. That card's actually kind of nuts. That deck's still kind of nuts. It continues to be good. It's just people are just playing other stuff. I know Kyoka got some support somewhere in here as well. It's here. Mediel got another card, but I don't like. I think this card's kind of dookie personally. Here's another rare generic card. When a student attacks a grade 3 or greater, you can put a card from hand to soul. Look at the top 2 cards of their deck. Choose one from among the parts of hand. Put the rest at the bottom. You can actually use this in Pacifica. Just something to kind of keep in mind. This is a Pacifica card, but you can also run it. You can also play it in Mediel, funnily enough. So it is a Mediel card as well. So just something kind of cool that you can cycle with. What is this? Is not a powerful card. I'm still looking for that one Pacholka card. I swear I'll find it. All right, it took me so long to find this card. I don't even want to talk about how long it took me, but this is the card I was talking about. So basically this card says at the end of turn, if you have a Pacholka in its card name, you can put this into soul, choose up to 2 Pacholkas from your soul or drop, and put them to the bottom of your deck in any order. And put one to the bottom, one to your hand. This is really good. This activates Persona while also cycling them. So this is actually a pretty good card to put in the deck. Doesn't really make the deck better, but it makes it easier for that. Instead of having to rely on that grade 1, you can now also rely on this as well. One's in the main phase, one's at the end of turn, so you actually have a couple options. And also the fact that this grabs from soul is really useful too. You don't really use your soul that much, especially if you're going the Ballista route where you have the Ballista ride line. You will actually have a lot of soul to work with, so this makes it easier to keep Persona riding and recycle recycling them. I think that about covers this. Let me see if there's any promos or anything that I missed, because I know we did get a couple promos. So we did get a couple promos down here. So if you have been waiting on some cards, I know they're not the greatest, but they're also not terrible either. We got the pretty PG. I think this PG is gorgeous. So just, you got the pretty PG here. This is some L Steel support, which by the way, there is L Steel support in this set too. If you're a big L Steel fan, there's a 2 and a 1, I believe. Also, there's the on-hit order card. This was a very expensive card, and now it's really cheap. The Asmi got reprinted. If you're interested in Asmi, this is some powerful support right here. Jennifer got reprinted, was also pretty good. This works with Kyoka, a couple other decks if you want to just utilize orders. And then we also got the Lapmi support, which is Kyrie support, but honestly, this card's not really necessary, especially if you're running the new grade 2. And then we also got this card, which actually did go up in price. So this, at some point, I believe it went up in price, but this is also a powerful card. So if you're grab pizza boxes, or if you're grabbing the box toppers, this is where that is at. And I believe that is everything. Again, I'm going to rename some of them. The Velshborn, which is the grade 2, very, very important card. The Yuka, a new grade 3, the Mouse. Reese's are probably your top 5 cards that you should be seeking out for if you want to go generically on stuff. If you're trying to like really ease down on certain decks, just, you know, like just really look at the names and see what works and what doesn't work. A lot of these cards are restricted to their names, so there's a lot of stuff you can't do, or a lot of stuff you can't experiment with, or you only have a couple cards to room with. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck list that I provided. Like I said, I'm still testing. A lot of reasons why I haven't been uploading as much is because I'm like, man, I need to redo basically everything that I knew about OuterOrange, because that 4-card slot does make a huge difference both in real life and online, because I don't even have the sleeves for half my cards anymore, so I need to figure that out. So long story short, there's quite a bit of movement going on, but I'm really excited, very happy that the 50 card rule is now official. I really like it. I think it's definitely the way it should have been from the start. And then we have the Energy Blast stuff coming, which is going to make even more interesting stuff happen as we can draw more and add even more generics and have even more room to experiment with our deck building, which I think is really cool. And that, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful to you. Do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, all that kind of good stuff. I'll be in Japan about a week and a half, so you know, stay tuned for that. I'm casting soon, so stay tuned for that as well. Get excited. Worlds is very, very close as we're getting closer and closer to it. But anyway, guys, peace out. Das vidania. I'll see you guys in a future video. Bye.